Magnus Carlsen's masterpiece in Sicilian defense against Hikaru Nakamura in Casablanca Chess Tournament 2024. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Enjoy Chess channel. This is the sixth video of the Sicilian defense Najdorf variation series, and in this video I'm going to show you a very beautiful and thematic game in Sicilian defense. This is a very strange tournament and players have to play right from the middle game of a given position, and the position for this game is a game between the two legends of the game, Anatoly Karpov and Garry Kasparov, in one of their World Championship matches. And now in year 2024, Hikaru Nakamura and Magnus Carlsen have to play their own version of this game. The game between Anatoly Karpov and Garry Kasparov kicked off with pawn to e4, and Garry replied with c5. This is Magnus Carlsen, but the starting moves comes from the Karpov-Kasparov game. So we are going to see the starting moves, knight f3 and e6. You might say this is not Najdorf variation. Yes, this is not Najdorf game, but it's very similar. It's like Scheveningen kind of structure, and this is a thematic response to white's kingside attack and how black can deal with it. So the idea of this video is not to memorize some theories, but to learn some kind of new ideas in Sicilian defense. d4 open Sicilian we have on the board, knight takes d4, knight c6, and here knight to c3, open Sicilian, and d6, this is called Scheveningen, or if the pawn is on e7, or this pawn goes to a6 in some positions with knight on f6, this is called Najdorf, but this is somehow like a Scheveningen kind of structure. And here Anatoly Karpov played his favorite move, pawn to g4. Usually when the knight is on f6, white starts with pawn to g4, but in this game Karpov, even without the knight on f6, he played pawn to g4. It's his own version of play. And Garry Kasparov played h6. If you remember the game that Garry played against Lenier Dominguez in 2017 in St. Louis Blitz and Rapid tournament, you might remember that Garry played something similar against Lenier Dominguez. So he wants to control this g5 push, and here Karpov continues with his h4 move. He wants to push more, he wants to have the opportunity to push this pawn, and now a6. You might now realize that it's very similar to Najdorf kind of structures, bishop g2 and bishop to e7. Okay, I'm going to attack this h4 pawn. What are you going to do about it? And Karpov says nothing, you can take it. If you want, you can take this, but this is very dangerous to take. And in the game, indeed, Kasparov didn't took it, because after this, white can sacrifice the rook, and after takes back, queen takes d6, and now queen takes c6 is coming. Even this position is quite bad for black, because this bishop is a monster. The dark color squares are very weak, and white can use them. He can go to long castle, e5 is coming. White is completely winning in this position. So it's not a good idea to take this poison pawn on h4. And here knight takes d4 played by Garry Kasparov, and after queen takes d4, e5 to push back the queen, and now he opens the bishop's diagonal, and now the queen goes back to d1, and after bishop e6 we have the position that players in this tournament should play. Let's now have an evaluation of this position. What kind of Najdorf or Sicilian type of position is this one? White advanced his pawns on the king side. He wants to attack, he wants to weaken black's king side, and at the same time white has the control over d5 square. The d6 pawn is somehow weak, but if you look deeply in the position, you can see that black has some counterplay on the queen side, and he has good control over the center, and his bishop on e6 is very good. It's a roughly equal position. Black is trying to develop his pieces, and in this position Hikaru Nakamura played knight to d5. How do you respond to this move? Because this is a very important position of the game. I guess it's one of the most critical moments of the game that Magnus Carlsen come up with a very good idea. The game format is also 15 minutes, so it's a rapid kind of tournament. It's not classical. And after knight d5, you might think that I have to take on d5. If this is your response, I'm not convinced that bishop d5 is good, because after queen takes d5, white has good control over white squares, but Magnus just calmly played rook c8. Defends the threat of bishop b6. Now if bishop b6 came, Magnus can simply place queen d7, and there is no knight c7, not like this. There is no knight c7 check, and black is completely okay. So he cannot play bishop to b6. So what can he do? If he takes on e7, I will just simply recap with knight. And now knight g6 is coming, d5 is coming, especially knight g6 to f4. It's a very, very interesting idea. And black can use these dark color squares. I guess d5 is not the best idea in this position because it's open up the two bishops for white. So black probably will play knight to g6 to f4 in next moves. If he plays h5, black can play something even computers suggest f6. I'm not sure, perhaps preventing g5, and after c3 he says that you can attack this, and if bishop f3, then black can simply place castle, a very good position, rook d8. Then maybe we can open the position with pawn to d5. It's a very nice position, but in the game Hikaru of course took the bishop. He played just simple move c3, and now knight to f6 attacking the knight. This is a very critical moment of the game. I guess Hikaru should have played g5 in this position, but he took on e7. And this is where the game goes in another direction compared to the game of Anatoly Karpov and Garry Kasparov. Let's have a quick look at that game, how Kasparov replied. He played queen takes e7, and after g5 he took, and after rook takes h1, bishop takes h1, knight g4, bishop d2, and here a very nice maneuver by Kasparov, queen f8, to transfer the queen to the kingside. And after this moves, I guess this played queen h4, something like b3 if I remember correctly, d5. If you take, I guess bishop takes d5 exists, queen takes d5, queen here check. Very hard stuff for white, so white cannot recapture back on d5. So in the game, he decided to trade queens, Karpov, and after these moves, I guess this is how the game continued. I'm not sure about this move actually. Okay, the game continued, and players at some moments, I guess bishop c1, d4, bishop a3. This is how the game finished actually. I remembered the game. E takes d4, maybe rook h1, yeah, knight d5, rook h8 check, king to d7, rook takes d8, king takes d8, bishop b2, bishop g4 check, and here Kasparov played knight f3 check, and it will transfer to a opposite color bishop. Yeah, white wins this pawn, but the game is going to be finished in a draw because these pawns are basically just one pawn, and black can easily put his bishop on e6, and this is a draw, so the game ended in a draw. But in this game, Magnus Carlsen played for win with king takes e7. Just to mention, in another game of this tournament, here Vishianand against Boston played bishop takes h4, and after bishop b6, queen g5, bishop e3, queen d8, they agreed to a draw on that game. So, but Magnus decided to play to continue on, and after knight takes e7, he decided to take with king takes e7. This is how we play Najdorf. When we have the central pawns around our king and the pieces, we feel safe about our king, and we also have a strange idea that our opponent king is weak. If you say this thing to any reasonable person, he says to you, "Are you mad? What are you talking about? Your king is on e7 and your opponent king is on e1. Your king is safer." Yeah, I will say that. My king is safer because it's very hard for you to attack it, but I will organize an attack on that. If you don't believe so, let's watch this game. We are attacking this pawn on g4, so white pushed it with g5, and here Magnus put his knight on g4, attacking the bishop. Of course, white has to maintain this bishop, because if knight takes e3 came, then white is completely lost. Bishop c1, and this is a position which, if you can see, Hikaru thought like 3 minutes on this move, which in his post-game analysis, he says that this was a very ridiculous thing. I don't know what he said, but it says it was not a good idea to do, because this is a very obvious move and you should not take so much time. I agree on that, because this is a rapid game, and 3 minutes on this game, it's waste of time. After bishop c1, then he was calculating queen b6 and what it can be like that after queen e2, but I guess it's completely okay. And after hg5, engine suggests bishop h3, black is even in some trouble, but so Magnus didn't play that, and he decided to just take on g5. This is the critical position for the white player. a very hard position to play. In the game, Hikaru Nakamura played quickly and he played bishop to f3, which was a big mistake. Engine suggests that f3 should have been played. A move which is not so hard to understand and to find out, but if you're a top level chess player, you're somehow hesitant to play something like f3 because f3 you should shut down your bishops, and after knight to f6, bishop takes g5, you have a strange feeling. Okay, after queen b6, I left my queen side alone. My bishop on g2 is not good, and he's going to play king f8 in next moves, and he might be able to play knight h5, knight f4. Okay, there are some space to panic in this position for white. I completely understand it, but queen d2, like, I'm not sure how black should continue. Maybe king to f8 is a move, I'm not sure, like long castle, maybe even rook c6. And you can see this pressure on the queen side. I mean, the queen can come to a5, if, for example, king b1, queen a5. This is a very hard position to play with white pieces, but of course, as Hikaru Nakamura said, this is very easy for engines to play. So but for him it was not a good idea, or maybe he didn't saw it, he just played it very fastly. And after bishop f3, Magnus comes up with a strange idea, queen d7, and Hikaru says, okay, what are you going to do? I'm just going to play rook g1, you need to go back, this knight cannot continue to stay here. And if you go back, I will just simply take bishop take g5, okay, my position is okay. Now my bishop is on f3, not my pawn, and my bishop is controlling this diagonal, and I have better pieces compared to the other line that I showed you. So this is what he saw, but Magnus always see one move more, and he's played this strange and brilliant move knight to h2. This is very hard to understand, of course, because this move white just simply took and says, okay, what are you going to do? But if the engine suggests bishop e2, and if g takes h4 is not a good idea because rook g2 just captures the knight, but this is a rapid game and player doesn't have that much time. So after bishop e2, engine suggests g4 with the idea of perhaps in some positions like rook g2, knight f3, takes, queen takes f3, and maybe rook h7, black is better, his king is safer, and other things. But in the game, this guy with the white pieces just decided to play bishop takes g5. I mean, Hikaru Nakamura, of course. And after f6, he plays bishop back to e3. And this is what's wrong with it. And this is what's wrong with it. Rook to g8. And now this h4 pawn is going to be taken. And he should play h5. And now give me your bishop. And now this h5 pawn is weak. It's very hard concept to understand that Magnus analyzed this position completely, and he had this judgment that I'm winning in this position. And here he played a marvelous chess move, queen to b5. Hikaru said this is a key move of the game. Queen b5 paralyzes the white on the queen side. White cannot go to long castle because bishop takes a2. It's not only a pawn, but also the queen side will be soon fail. So he cannot simply goes to long castle. And here he decided to go bishop c1. This bishop is coming to here, going back and forth a lot in this game, but this is a very bad place for the bishop. And here Magnus just calmly plays bishop to f7, attacking this pawn, rook h1, and here engine suggests g5, but Magnus plays queen a4. Another move to paralyze black's queen side, because now he cannot play b3, bishop takes b3 coming. So if you cannot play that, then what are you going to play? This is very hard. He played queen e2, Hikaru. He's not a guy that is going to lose quickly. He puts all of his resistance. He will do anything that he can to maintain the game. I mean, one of the hardest players to win against is probably Hikaru Nakamura. And now Magnus should show his technique, d5. He wasted a lot of time, but it's worth it definitely. He takes d5, bishop takes d5. Now the bishop comes to the game. Rook h2, and now another excellent move with the queen. Queen c6, he wants to play bishop f3, rook d8, and rook d1 mate, maybe. Hikaru decided to complicate things, complicate the matters, but now comes quickly bishop f3. Not so much quickly, to be honest. Queen e3, and here I was searching for something like rook d8, or maybe even rook e8, f takes e5, king f7, but Magnus just said, give me your pawn. I'm interested in your pawns, and Hikaru took on this, and this is the Magnus signature on this game, rook to e8. This is how Magnus wins the games in chess. Rook e8, it decides to go into the queen and king's opponent direction. Now, if e takes f6, king takes f6, black is just completely winning because the queen and the bishop supports the rook, so he cannot do that. If e6, for sure king f8, and now rook takes e6 is coming, and the king will be checkmated. So what he does is queen g1, he just wants to locate his pieces in different places, but after rook takes e5, we have opposite colors bishops, the king is in the center. You saw what I told you. This king is weaker than that king. Of course, it's not going to happen in every game, but this is already lost. Hikaru played king c1, which was a mistake, but if bishop d4, also this check, and here, this is, no, this, like this I will lose, but queen e4, queen c2 check is just devastating. So he played king c1, and here, Magnus just sacrificed his rook. It's not a sacrifice, of course. If you take queen d1, it's checkmate. So a beautiful game by Magnus Carlsen. I don't know what to say. He played the perfect chess game. Perfect chess game. You need to watch this video and replay it over and again and again to yourself to understand this game. A very perfect example how to deal with opponents kingside pawn storm. I mean, look at this position. It seems like that white has a good attack on the king side. We are stacked, our development is stacked, but move by move, Magnus Carlsen's position becomes better, and after this fantastic knight h2 and this break in the center, remember, if you have a good break in the center in Sicilian Najdorf, then you are on your way to win the game. So this is the good break, and after that, it's just a matter of technique for Magnus Carlsen to finish this beautiful game. I hope you enjoyed it, and if this is the case, please support this video and this channel by liking it, by sharing it with your friends, by subscribing to my channel and writing your thoughts and comments below the video. Enjoy chess and life.